In the last class, we're discussing the antithyroid drugs, propylthiouracil and carbimazole. We saw the difference. So once again, the differences. So propylthiouracil that is usually less commonly used. Most commonly used is the carbimazole. Okay. So potency wise, propylthiouracil is less potent. Carbimazole is almost 5 times more potent. 5 times more potent. And carbimazole has one active component, that is methimazole. So carbimazole is usually prodrug and methimazole is the active drug. Propylthiouracil, it is less active potency wise, and protein binding. Propylthiouracil has more protein binding in comparison to the carbimazole. So what happens when there is more protein binding? There is less placental transfer. Okay. So in case of pregnant mothers, because of the more protein binding in case of propylthiouracil, there will be less placenta transfer, and this leads to less fetal toxicity or less fetal hypothyroidism, less fetal toxicity. And half-life, usually half-life of propylthiouracil is less and carbimazole is more. It is around 4 to 6 hours. Okay, and it is around carbimazole around 14, more than 12 hours actually. So it is to be given thrice daily, 3 times. Propylthiouracil is given 3 times, whereas carbimazole is given only once daily. Okay. Active metabolite, propylthiouracil has no active metabolite, whereas carbimazole has active metabolite, that is methimazole. Methimazole is not prescribed usually, it is given in the form of carbimazole. Okay. And multiple dosing, obviously it is tedious and it is once daily. Peripheral conversion of T4 to T3, it is inhibited. The advantage with propylthiouracil is that placental, because of more protein binding, there is less placental transfer. That is one thing. The second thing is because it inhibits the peripheral conversion of the T4 to T3. So it has one more step in the antithyroid action. Other than inhibiting the TPO, thyroid peroxidase enzyme, in addition, it inhibits the peripheral conversion of T4 to T3. So whatever the thyroid hormone that has been already synthesized in the body, if we inhibit the TPO, it cannot do anything with the thyroid hormone that has already been synthesized. So now the next thing is we have to stop the T4 to T3 conversion, because T3 is the active form. Here the propylthiouracil comes into play. Carbimazole has nothing to do. So in case of thyroid storm or thyroid toxicity, we give this propylthiouracil. Okay, it can prevent the peripheral conversion and it will be helpful. Okay. So we had seen some of the uses yes, uses. In the uses, obviously the hyperthyroid condition, that is Graves' disease, that is where it is used. Other than that, toxic nodular goiter. Yes, toxic because it is producing more thyroid hormone. The goiter nodules. So it is goiter. Goiter means enlargement of the thyroid, irrespective of the cause, and it is nodular. Usually, some of the toxic nodules, some of the active nodules in the thyroid gland, they secrete excess of the thyroid hormone. And in both the condition, here in Graves' disease, what is the cause? It is the TSH antibody, thyroid gland, and produces more thyroid hormone. Okay. Next is it is obviously it is for the definitive treatment, but it will take time. It is around 6 months to 2 years to have a control of this disease. We have to give for a long duration. Then the second thing is perioperatively. Here the thing is because we are planning for the operation in case there is thyroid enlargement. Suppose you are planning for hemithyroidectomy. So in that condition, you have to contain the active gland first. So whatever the thyroid hormone already synthesized, we cannot do with it. We cannot do anything with this already synthesized hormone. So we have to block the T4 to T3 conversion. Okay, so it is achieved by your propyl thiouracil (PTU). It is not achieved by methimazole. In that condition, for in peri-operative cases, we have to give propyl thiouracil. Okay. During the surgery also, there is some leakage of the thyroid hormone into the bloodstream. Okay. Thyroid hormone is released into the blood. In that condition, the T4 may get converted to T3. So here also the same PTU blocks this. Okay. Then last thing is with the radioactive iodine. Radioactive iodine actually causes apoptosis in the thyroid follicular cells. It causes permanent destruction of the follicular cells, but that needs time because apoptosis is a slow process, not an immediate process. The necrosis, degradation, and the shrinking of the gland, that will take around 12 to 14 days, around 2 weeks time we have to wait. So in that time, to control the thyroid hormone excess, we can give either of these, which propyl thiouracil or carbimazole. But propyl thiouracil is more useful in that condition because it inhibits the conversion of the peripheral T4 to T3. That is the thing, because when the gland is destroyed, whatever the synthesized hormone already there in the colloid, thyroid colloid, that is released into the blood and get converted to T3. So that we have to inhibit. So in this condition, usually perioperative and with radioactive iodine in those 14 days, we have to give PTU. PTU is a more preferred drug. But in case of a definitive treatment, when the duration of the treatment is 6 months to 2 years, because of the relatively less toxic side effects of your methimazole and carbimazole, we usually prescribe carbimazole. Okay. And advantage, obviously, there will be no radiation, there will be no scar. And because the inhibition of the enzyme is temporary only, fresh enzymes can be synthesized in the body. So the inhibition is temporary. Now the next drug available to control the thyroid, iodides and iodine. Although iodine and iodides, they are required for thyroid hormone synthesis. Yes, because the iodination of the tyrosine residue is a must for the action of for synthesis of the thyroid hormone. But this iodine, you can see, it is the fastest acting anti-thyroid drug. Whenever there is excess of the thyroid hormone released into the bloodstream usually during the perioperative condition, or when we give radioiodine subsequent to the destruction of the gland, maybe. Okay, so in that condition, we have to suppress the thyroid gland immediately. Okay, in that condition, iodide is one of the mainstay. Although the carbimazole and methimazole, they are acting in the periphery, propyl thiouracil also acts in the periphery, but that takes some time. So even before the propyl thiouracil, obviously we give propyl thiouracil, but before that, it will take some time at least to have the action. Okay, even before that, we have the iodine ataharine. Okay, iodine. So iodine in any form that can be given, mostly it is given either the molecular iodine or the potassium iodide, Ki. Okay. One radio contrast media that can also be given, that is potassium iodide, iopiodote. This radio contrast medium that contains large amount of the iodine, and that is usually given to suppress the thyroid gland. What is the rationale behind this? Why this happens? The thing is that iodine inhibits multiple steps in the thyroid hormone synthesis, but most common is one of them is thyroid, that is NIS inhibition, that is sodium iodine symphoter. It's because of the excess presence of the iodine in the bloodstream, the NIS, the receptor, the transporter, that is suppressed. The expression of the NIS transporter is less. Second is the enzyme, thyroid peroxidase enzyme, that is also inhibited. Okay. So when we give large amount of the iodine in thyrotoxic patient, the TPO is a thyroid peroxidase enzyme is inhibited. And the effect is called Wolff-Chaikoff effect. Okay. So Wolff-Chaikoff is one effect. The another effect is Jod-Bezdo effect. Jod-Bezdo. Jod is iodine. Jod means iodine. And Bezdo has first time noticed this phenomenon. So it is called Jod-Bezdo effect or Jod-Bezdo phenomenon. So what is Jod-Bezdo phenomenon? In case of iodine, the people from the iodine deficient area, this NIS, the sodium iodine symphoter, is excessively expressed on the thyroid follicular cells. So what happens when we give iodine from the outside source, even if the less amount, because of the excess of the symphoter present on the thyroid follicular cell, iodine is taken avidly by the thyroid follicular cells, and that leads to high amount of the thyroid hormone synthesis, because increased uptake, there is increased synthesis. So that is Jod-Bezdo. Jod-Bezdo also occurs with the same iodine, and Wolff-Chaikoff also occurs with the same iodine. So the thing is, Jod-Bezdo occurs in case of people from the iodine deficient area, and Wolff-Chaikoff effect occurs in case of your iodine, in case of thyroid excess persons, where we need where this iodine causes thyroid peroxidase inhibition. The third mechanism is the thyroid constipation. Okay, what is thyroid constipation? Once the thyroid hormone is synthesized, it is stored in the form of colloid. Okay, in the follicular space. So the thyroid colloid, the thyroid from the colloid is taken up by the same thyroid follicular cells from time to time, and in the lysosome, that is cleaved, the bigger protein, thyroglobulin protein is cleaved, and the thyroid hormone is released. Okay, so this release, uptake, processing in lysosome, followed by release. Okay, and the thyroid constipation actually the prevention of the either this uptake by the cell processing in the lysosome, or after processing releasing into the bloodstream, any of these particularly the mechanism are not known clearly, but it is somewhat like constipation. We have the hormone within the follicle, but we cannot release. The thyroid follicular cell cannot release the hormone into the bloodstream cell. The product is there, but cannot release. So that is thyroid constipation. So here also the iodine is effective. This is actually this hormone, this iodine is usually effective in this condition. Okay, thyroid constipation. It is a question: which component or which drug helps causes thyroid constipation? Obviously, it is iodine. And because of this thyroid constipation, whatever the synthesized hormone is there in the follicle, that is not released. So somewhat it is helpful even after the synthesis has been there. Iodine is helpful. So to contain the thyroid toxicity, sometimes this iodine is given, and because iodine is fastest acting drug, so in case of excess thyroid or excess thyroid crisis, I think it is called, whenever there is excess thyroid hormone released suddenly into the blood, and in that condition iodine is very helpful by inhibiting the thyroid NIS, by inhibiting the TPO, also by the release, that is the thyroid constipation. But one thing you have to remember, the effect is very short lasting only, and there is always a thyroid escape that happens around 2 weeks, around 14 days after the administration of the iodine starts. At around 14 days, thyroid start compensating for that, all those things like NIS inhibition or TPO. Somehow the thyroid follicular cells try to escape the inhibitory effect of the iodine in all the steps. So what happens? Now the thyroid again starts producing those hormone and releasing as well into the stream, and this comes with a vengeance even more serious than the previous condition. So be aware of it. So it is only iodine is only a short term provision or treatment for the control of the thyroid gland. Okay, side effects, obviously iodine, it causes hypersensitivity, be it the antiseptic lotion like povidone iodine or anything. It inhibits, it causes hypersensitivity, and on chronic use it will cause chronic iodism, where there is swelling of all the mucosal surfaces, like you're swelling of lips, okay, swelling of tongue, lips, mouth, okay, and throat, larynx, okay, and there is excessive secretion. It is swelling, also there is secretion, excessive secretion from glands, okay. So that happens. In addition, there will be joint pain, okay, and platelet count also reduce to large extent, that is thrombocytopenia we say it, okay. So chronic iodism may occur on long-term use. Um, and what are the uses of the iodine? Obviously, perioperatively, because it when given, it contains the thyroid gland. It makes the gland firm. Okay, it becomes solid, less vascular, less blood supply or less vascular, and so that it is easy to operate. Okay, so it is mainly uses perioperative, and when there is thyroid storm, I was telling, it is crisis. So in case of thyroid storm, whenever it is released, be it thyroid storm can occur due to any toxic nodular goiter, TNG. It may occur due to surgery, or it may occur due to radioiodine therapy because of the destruction of the gland. During surgery, if we cut the gland in between, then there will be release of the thyroid, and that is released to the bloodstream. Okay. At the same time, although it is used for containment of the gland as antithyroid, it is also used for endemic goiter, as because in endemic goiter there will be Jod-Basedow effect actually, because more of the NIS will be expressed in case of iodine deficient condition, and we supplement the iodine as a nutritional supplement, and that helps in restoring the iodine concentration in the body, and that helps in the synthesis of the thyroid hormone. Okay. Now the one more drug, that is radioactive iodine. Okay, radioactive iodine, actually radioactive, what is the non-radioactive iodine? It is iodine 127. Okay, so 131, 133 or 125, they are radioactive. These are radioactive. 131 is radioactive. I think it is radioactive. Iodine 127 is the normal isotope. This is 133, 131 and 125. These are the radioactive isotopes. So out of these 133, 125, 121, this is 131 is the most commonly used isotope as a radioactive iodine. The T-half, the half-life of this radioactive iodine is 8 days. Okay, and usually it emits gamma particle as well as beta particles, gamma radiation. So gamma radiation is usually used for detection of the activity, location of the iodine, because iodine is mostly concentrated in the thyroid gland. So after giving a intravascular dose, parenteral dose of the iodine, or oral, be it oral or intravascular, it quickly concentrated in the thyroid gland, and from the thyroid gland they emit gamma radiation. This gamma radiation that is detected by the gamma camera, and this is used for diagnostic purpose. So for the diagnostic purpose, so you can see that one is uses diagnostic because it is gamma radiation. And what is the use of beta particle? Beta particles are destructive to the follicular cells. Okay. So when we give this radioiodine, because of this beta particle, the thyroid follicular cells are destroyed. The question is, why not other cells are destroyed? The simple reason is beta particle has penetrability of 0.1 to 0.2 millimeter. Very small distance. They can penetrate only this much. Okay. So because of the less penetrability, they only destroy only the surrounding tissue where there is concentrated. Because the iodine is concentrated in thyroid gland, so for that same reason, that can only destroy the thyroid follicular cells. And the destruction of the thyroid follicular cell is very slow. And because the process involved is apoptosis, it is not direct destruction. It initiates apoptosis. So, and apoptosis is a slow process. It will take around 12 to 14 days, around 1 to 2 weeks to happen. So there is usually slow. So in the meantime, you have to use some other anti-thyroid drugs like anti-thyroid, like your propyl thiouracil or even iodine. Okay. The use is mainly diagnostic when we give very low dose, and we give little higher dose for the therapeutic purpose in case of Graves' disease and toxic nodular goiter. But in that case, even we have to wait for some time. And whenever destroyed the follicular cells, the destruction is permanent. So there is, although the advantage is permanent, but destruction is also permanent. And in case of cancers, metastatic cancers, palliative, when there is no surgery is possible, we give radioiodine. There is no other choice. So this iodine is usually given in the form of tablets or syrup. Okay, and they are given orally. So administration is very easy and it is very cheap as well. Okay, and the supplier of this is Bhabha Atomic Research Center, BARC. The drug comes directly from BARC and that is administered. It is not available commonly in the your pharmacy stores because of this radioactivity. Okay, and there is no need of a surgery, but still there is destruction of the gland, and the solution is permanent, but no surgery. Surgery has permanent solution, so also the radioactive iodine. So we cannot reverse the thing. Unlike your propyl thiouracil or carbimazole, like antithyroid drugs or iodine even, we cannot reverse the condition once we have achieved. So most of the times these things happen. Hypothyroidism, because of the excessive destruction of the thyroid follicular cell, there is chance, every chance that the hypothyroidism will happen. It happens in most of the patients usually because it is permanent. So we can supplement with some external thyroid hormone like L-thyroxine. Once we achieve the suppression of the gland, we can supplement with L-thyroxine. Okay. And because of the long latent period, obviously 2 to 4 weeks, we give some other things. And in case of a young and pregnant, the baby is at risk. So we don't prescribe in pregnant. And in young patients, because they may develop, there is every chance that they will develop hypothyroidism. So we don't prescribe this drug before 25 years. So at least for administration of this radioactive iodine, the patient must be at least 25 years of age. Okay. So next is one more thing is there. Before going to the questions, we'll see one more drug is available for the treatment of thyroid crisis or thyroid storm. That is propranolol. Propranolol, it has multiple effects actually. Propranolol, it suppresses the heart rate. It causes decreased anxiety. Okay. In addition, it also prevents the peripheral conversion of T4 to T3. This is also prevented, and because of these multiple actions, it reduces the heart rate. So also it reduces the arrhythmia also. Okay, and that is helpful in case of thyroid storm because it reduces the anxiety, tremor, all these things. Tremor also. Okay. So it reduces the tremor as well. So it is symptomatically very useful. In addition, specifically it also inhibits T4 to T3 combination conversion. One more drug that can convert that can prevent the T4 to T3 conversion is corticosteroids. Our next chapter will be corticosteroids. So in case so there is a question that may come there, that is management of the thyroid storm. So what is thyroid storm? Excessive release of the thyroid into the bloodstream causing hyperthyroid like state. Okay, and that is one emergency. In that condition we need a symptomatic treatment. You give IV fluid, you give cooling of the patient. Okay, you give propranolol, one is IV, then cooling, then propranolol, then give corticosteroids, then give iodine. Lastly, you give antithyroid drug PTU because that is also useful. Okay, iodine is fastest acting, so iodine is given. Particularly the contrast media, radio contrast media, 0.5 gram or 500 milligram to 1 gram of the radioiodine is given. But that is management of thyroid storm. Now we are coming to the questions.